And one of the complaints is Scrum, when we run the sprints, there's too many meetings. That's what, because we have to do the sprint planning, backlog refinement, daily scrums, and retrospective. And the teams, as always, they are very short, limited on time. What has happened in some of the cases is the product backlog refinement. I have had to do some kind of negotiation and at least have the product owner at the minimum be present in the product backlog refinement, because he has more understanding, he or she in our case was he, so he has more understanding of what the product is. So he helps in defining those backlog and prioritizing them. And those meetings, usually the team doesn't join in because they feel that once the product owner has done it, we have refined the backlog, and when we are anyway meeting for the sprint planning, and at the sprint planning, they're going to look at the top prioritized item and then ask any clarifying questions. So that way, there was a general agreement within the team that it's more better use of the time, that the sprint planning is where we clarify all the doubts, and the product backlog is where the product owner finds some time with me as a Scrum Master, where we go through and refine the backlog. So what are your thoughts on that process?
I think if it works for you, you can keep it this way, if it works for you, and that's a big if. What I have seen when, like I've seen a lot of teams who tried what you described now. They tried drop-in refinement and saying that, hey, product owner, you think for yourself, and then you come, and then in the sprint planning, we will discuss it. What I have seen very often, that when the product owner comes to the sprint planning and we start discussing item number 1, right? Product owner says, guys, how will you do it? Here's an item. And the team says, you know what? It requires an integration, I don't know, with Stripe. We never worked with that thing before. We don't know how good the API is. And we need someone to take a look at the API. We need someone to check if they have what we want to do inside this API. We cannot commit, right? So as soon as the team cannot answer a question about an item, and they need time in order to investigate, that will delay. Like, that means that we cannot take this item into the sprint. Are you with me, Rohit? And
yes, I am.
And this will delay. The product owner says, hey guys, this is my backlog. I have these 4 items at the top. I want you to start working on item number 1. The team says, no, we cannot start working on item number 1. Someone needs to take a look at the API, and then we can decide if we can start or if we cannot start. And then product owner says, what about the second item? I want you to start working on this. And the team says, oh, you know what, here, nobody talked about this item with the risks department in our company. Someone better go and talk to risks department. So we cannot start working on this. And then what about the third item? Oh, no, you know what? On that third item, there is unclear, like we are building this banking application. It's unclear how the formula works. Can someone go and ask in the front office? We need some information from the front office how this thing needs to be working. So for every question that the team has about the item from the backlog, from the top of the backlog, it means that those items will be delayed and they cannot be started on. And to me, if I'm the product owner, I will be pissed, right? I will be pissed at the team because, hey guys, these are my top priority items, and you are telling me that you cannot start working on them because you have questions. I want you to ask all of those questions before, which means that you have to go to refinement. You have to take a look at those items before, so that when we come to the sprint planning, you guys don't ask me stupid questions. So that is what I see when people are trying, when teams are trying to drop refinements. I see a lot of this happening, and then product owner is being pissed, and then product owner is saying that, hey guys, I'm not happy with what you're doing because all my top priority items can never be started on because you have some questions that we haven't discussed yet. And if that's not happening to you, then it's fine. The only reason we prepare ourselves for refinement is just to address that type of things.
Yeah, it does. I can fairly relate to that. There are not at that frequency, like 1, 2, 3, 4, but yeah, definitely if we have like 6 or 7 stories planned, then usually it's 1 or 2. Sometimes when we have not enough confidence to start them. In my case, we just usually either if there's fair amount of confidence, then we still pull it in and then we try to bridge those gaps. But if there's a lot of ambiguity, then we kind of park it, deprioritize it, and then wait for follow-up.
And that's usually what product owners don't like, because they say, hey, it's my high priority item and it's not being done because we haven't researched enough, right?
Yeah, but what I had seen is most of the time that we kind of end up doing both the sprint planning and as well as backlog refinement. They were kind of trying to become the same discussions.
They are the same. They are the same, Rohit. The only difference between refinement and planning is the time frame. They are the same. Look at this. Here we have planning as, I'll change the color. So planning is the first thing that happens in the sprint. And in the planning, we discuss only what's going to be done in the sprint, right? So in the planning, only current sprint will be discussed. What we do in the refinement, we are looking into the future. So we're discussing sprint number 2, sprint number 3, but we are not discussing current sprint in the refinement. But the way the refinement is done is exactly the same as planning is done. So what happens in the meeting is splitting things into smaller, splitting user stories into tasks, asking questions about risks, about, I don't know, details, the implementation details, figuring out front end, back end, all kind of like documentation, everything. So the discussions are exactly the same, but the time frame is different. In the sprint planning, only what we're going to be working on now. In the refinement, usually about the future. Hey guys, how can we prepare so that next sprint can be started okay, right? But otherwise, these two meetings are the same. And one more thing I wanted to say about the meetings, because I often hear people say, oh, you know what, Scrum, there's so many meetings. And I say, guys, there are only 5 meetings in Scrum. And the resistance to meetings, people have resistance to meetings because usually they have bad meetings. Bad meeting means no one knows what the hell am I doing in this meeting. No one knows what's the purpose of the meeting. No one knows why the hell they called me into this meeting. What is expected of me? Why am I here? What are the outcomes from this meeting? If no one knows about those things, then of course the meeting is bad. It feels like a waste of time. And the only outcome from that meeting is your stomach is full of coffee and donuts, right? And if that happens, then we suffer from bad meetings. But it's not the Scrum who we should be blaming for it, right? In Scrum, all the meetings are defined really well. We know why we do sprint planning, and sprint planning is real work. It's not some BS where we just sit and talk bubbles and smoke and eat donuts, right? It's a real work. And the same happens to daily Scrum. The same happens with refinement, with review, and with retrospective. We know why we do them. We know what are the outcomes that we want to have. We know why we invite people to this meeting. So they are real work. They are not just waste of time. And if you struggle, like if you see that your team has a lot of meetings where you waste time, I suggest you take that thing to the retrospective and you discuss it with the team saying, hey guys, why the hell are we attending so meetings which are wasting our time? That's the problem. The problem is usually not, I mean, certain meetings you must have because it's real work happening there. And that's what I feel happens in Scrum meetings.